Hi FYC instructors, this is a video about setting up Gradebook. I'm going to go pretty quickly, but I think you can handle it. I just clicked on instructors. Now I'm going to click technology tutorials. And now there's a link there called setting up Grade Center. You can use that page as a reference to everything I do here. I'm going to show you how to set up the weight by category option. The other two options are there with text demonstrations, but I'm going to explain this one. Great. So the first thing we should do is log into Blackboard and head to our Grade Center. I did that by going to Evaluation Grade Center, right? Okay. Well, the first thing I have to do is set up my categories. So I'll go to Manage Categories. That makes sense, right? I want to manage my categories. I know that when you need it, you can't always find it. Let's create a category for each item in the syllabus. So the thing I need to do now is grab my syllabus, right? So in another window, I'm going to head to the main FYC page, head to 1101, and then go to Fall 2010 syllabus, because right now as I'm making this, Fall 2010 is beginning. In the syllabus, there's this handy chart with how everything needs to be weighted. So that's what I'm going to refer to. I see in-class writing as one assignment. So back here in Blackboard, I'm going to create a category called in-class writings. Now watch things go really fast as I set up all of the other ones as well. Okay, all of my categories are now here, so I'll click OK. Alright, now we have to go to the weighted total category, which is a default category that should exist in every new Blackboard course. I want to edit the way that it weights things, so I'm going to click this little arrow and click Edit Column Information, because I want to, edit the information about how this column does what it does. So every once in a while I get this pop-up, I just hit run or cancel. I don't see much of a difference. It drives me crazy. I'm going to scroll down to this really important section here. What I want to do is get these categories into this big box so that I can weight them appropriately, but I can't weight them until they get in here. The reason this whole section up here on the left is if I was weighting by item, which you might remember back on the Setting Up Grade Center page, weight by item was the first option. So if you're like, well, wait, what do I use this section for? It's a whole different thing. Right now, we're just going to worry about getting these categories over here. So one by one, I'm going to take all of the categories that I just made, click them, then click this little arrow, and watch that category move from here to here. See, informal writing. Great. Now I'm going to take another one, presentation. I just made that a second ago. Click it once. Click this little arrow once, bam, it's over there. It's amazing. It's like a rocket ship. One by one, homework, project 1, project 2. I don't really care about the order right now. It's not something that particularly matters. I'm just going to make sure that every category that I want to use ends up in here. Well, great, there they all are. Now I'm going to go back to the syllabus and ask myself, okay, in-class writing, what should it be worth? 10%. In-class writing, well, I guess this is where order would have helped, whatever. I'm going to type 10 in there, right next to in-class writings, and I'm going to do the same thing for each of the categories. Great, now I've got all my percentages in. They should all add up to 100. I'm also going to go to each one and click proportionally. If you want the explanation of why that is so, feel free to go to that text tutorial that I told you about at the beginning of this video. For these purposes here, it's simplest if you just click proportionally for every single one. I want to make sure calculate as a running total is still yes. Now I'm going to click Submit. Now you're not going to see a lot of difference here, but that means the weighted total here has all this secret underlying power now, so that every time you insert a grade and put the grade into the right category, it's going to change the grade in this weighted total to the correct total. It's a little confusing because there's also a total category here. You have to direct your students to pay attention to the weighted total, not the total. The total will just be an unweighted collection of points. How many points possible, how many points they got out of the points possible. You know what I like to do? Because the total I think is a little confusing. I go to Manage Column Organization and hide the total category. You just click it, and you can click hover over Show Hide, and then hide selected columns. Now it's in gray, showing that students aren't going to see it. Personally, I don't care about last access availability for my students either, or their username. So I hide all of those. It just makes things a little bit cleaner. You'll see that right here. Now that I've clicked Submit, I don't have quite as much junk to wade through. I only have my good stuff. It still exists. I can get it back if I want. Same place, Manage Column Organization, but I don't need it. So let's say I'm going through the semester and I want to create some columns. Well, that's great. Let's say that my students just turned in draft 1 of project 1. Makes sense, right? Oh, that thing. So I'll type in the title I want to use, in this case project 1, draft 1. I scroll down to the category. It's part of the project 1 category, so I'll choose that. This isn't a huge grade, so I want to make sure I choose a small points possible. How about 10 points? That's just what I'm going to choose. It's totally up to you. The rest of this is usually pretty good. If I want, I can insert a due date, but I don't have to. I'll click Submit. Excellent. My column is now there, and I can insert a grade if I want to. Let's go ahead and create columns for drafts 2 and 3 as well.
Great, now I have 3 columns. You notice that on my screen here, it's a little bit annoying that I can't see what draft it actually is. 2 ways around that are either to hover over it and then see that up here, oh, it disappears. I can't gesture with my mouse. How about this? Up here, the draft, the entire title that I typed in appears, and it changes as I move to hover over other things. If I'm really unhappy with that, I can click that little arrow, edit the column information. It's a great trick to know, edit column information. And that's when I would use a grade center display name, perhaps P1, D1, or something like that. Whatever I could do that my students will understand. Now, it's called P1, D1. The draft 1 is very clearly visible. Well, I want to input some scores for the student. So I need to make a fake student first. I will go down here to Course Tools, then create temporary student. You click it, and it's that easy. All of a sudden I have a student named Ferris Bueller who's part of my course. Excellent. In a real class I would see a number of students, but in this fake class I have to create one. So now, let's say for project 1, draft 1, I'm thinking, now wait a minute, how many points did I say that was worth? If I hover over it, it tells me up there, points possible, 10. So I grade Ferris's draft. Personally, I tend to do this fairly simply. Does it look like they did the assignment or not? Very often students will get a 10 out of 10. I just type it in, hit 10. You notice that the weighted total column is updated now. It says, oh, there's a grade, and this student has gotten 100% of all the grades available right now. Now let's say for draft 2, again, I can't remember how many points I said it was. Oh, right, 50 because it says it right there. And I grade the student's draft. I think to myself, you know what, this was in the realm of a C+. It was a little bit better than average. Well, I like to think to myself, a C+, what's that, a 78? Well, what's half of 78? Well, if you don't know, you can bring up your handy calculator, right? 78 divided by 2, 39. So I'll think to myself, all right, I think you deserve a 39 out of 50. Notice the weighted total has changed. But for the final draft, let's say the student really pulled it up, did a lot better than the second draft, but not quite any level, and they ended up with an 89. Isn't that sad, 89? I know that this is a 100-point grade, so I'm going to go ahead and type 89 in. And again, notice that the grade changed. And you might think to yourself, no, wait a minute, for this first one, project 1, draft 1, they got a 10 out of 10, a full 100% of the possible points. Well, because I have made these different point values, I made a 10-pointer, a 50-pointer, and a 100-pointer, how do I say this? The assignments that are worth more points are actually worth more points. They're rated automatically as heavier here in the weighted total. Now, this is the exact same place where I'm going to input all of the grades for the students. So let's say I give a in-class essay. I'll just create it the same way I created those other columns. I'll type, this drives me bonkers. I'll type in-class essay 1, because they are going to have 2 eventually. I'll make sure the category is in-class writings. I'll go ahead and make it worth 100.